Hey, Brian, I put a headline up a little while ago and I said that today's stock market was shocking.
Right, right.
I don't think anybody expected that reversal. That was
Mhm,
wild. I mean, I said I thought it would hold in there,
mhm,
and not go below the 10% on the S&P, and that Tesla probably wouldn't break below its 247, 248, whatever that was.
mhm.
So I was right about those two things.
Right,
I would have looked so much better if I'd also said, and it'll reverse like 100, the S&P will reverse like 100 points or something.
right, right.
I would have
I'm
done.
expecting reversals. Like it's almost like, you have these steep sell-offs of Tesla and of the market
Yeah,
and then recovers,
yeah,
right? And but it's still another step down. It's like boom, boom, boom. It's like, bouncing down steps or something like that, right? And it just hits in the morning and then also can like go through the day and then it just caves, you know,
yeah.
partway through. So that pattern has been happening a lot. It's just that you can't, it's a coin flip. It's like, okay, and it bounces off or it keeps going down. Coin
Right,
flip,
right.
coin flip. It is, and it is not clear as to how it plays out.
Yeah, so I was wondering whether, okay, so I don't believe that the tariffs are anywhere close to being as big a deal as the headlines are saying.
Right.
And I'm wondering whether the average market guy, especially the bond players, whether the
Yeah.
bond guys think like I think, that it's just not this big a deal. And so the bonds, which had been down early, the yields had been down early and then started moving back up again. And I
Hmm.
wonder if the equity people were looking at that and going, well, the bond people aren't scared, so why am I scared?
Right. Right. So, um, the actual numbers around that are the US economy is about $28 trillion GDP,
Mhm.
right? The consumer final consumption of the United States is about $20 trillion,
Right.
right? Which is one third of the world's 60 trillion, right? So it's that's why the US is the big dog because it has all that. But in terms of import exports, we uh, import about 3.5 trillion and we export about 2 trillion. That includes like everything, right? So the import side being 3.5 trillion, if I imported, and like a bunch of that is also stuff like some oil for refining. We're now like almost net neutral in terms of how much we bring in, how much we bring out. But on that commodity end of it, like we bring it in, we have the most refineries. So then other places that can't build a refinery have to send their oil to us. We
Mm,
refine it, and you go from crude oil to oil products that go out the other way,
mm.
right? So that 3.5 trillion of imports, there's a lot of basic commodity type things, right? Which are not in general in these buckets, although we made 10% on oil. Yeah. So um, these flows in terms of like actual products and stuff goes to your point is maybe in total are about 12% of the economy, 30% coming in. But it's also um, when you look at the impact of how these 25% is going to hit, it's actually, again, not that big a deal. And then for cars, we've already discussed how it's, parts and how it's, different things that be mitigated. And then even if there is an effect, it's delayed. And yeah, so again, correct. It's not that going to be that big deal. The whole thing of like right now, before this all started, end of last year, 80 billion dollars um, of tariffs,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So this thing all goes in, we go maybe to 180, 200 billion,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's only 100 billion. Yes, it's loading onto auto and a few other areas, right? But it's again not the end of the world, not the big
Yeah,
deal.
and that's your and my number, and I'm agreeing with you on that number. Now, Trump came out today and said, "Oh, it's going to be 600 billion." But
Right.
I'm looking at it, and I'm going, okay, if you take and you multiply 3 trillion by 20%, and you
Mhm.
say your average increase is going to be a 20% increase, well, you can get to 600 billion, but
Right.
it just doesn't work that way.
No, no, no. The thing is, he's not saying he's done,
Yeah,
right? So he can say, and he and London can say, we're going to get to 500 billion, right?
yeah,
We're going to 7x the tariffs,
uh-huh.
right? Because this is not the first, the only
Sure.
shoe,
Uh-huh.
right? So yes, when this thing goes in, oh, it's a big day, reciprocal, blah, blah, blah. The thing is, they can keep turning the crank until they get to the number they want,
Right,
right?
right,
So, and I think applying it's a sales tax kind of, at the
right,
ports and blah blah blah. So to say a VAT tax, a value added tax in Europe of 18%,
right.
that's impossible. You're taxing your own people and blah blah blah, right? How is this different,
Yeah,
right? In
yeah,
that I'm just choosing to do it there. or Canada throws in a goods and services tax, a nationwide sales tax, and it goes up, 5%, 7%. It's like no one would say, well, it's impossible for us to have a sales tax of 18% just because Europe just did that.
right.
It's like, of course you can have taxes. And yes, it's we're paying it, but now it's targeted specifically for at the border or whatever, right?
Right,
And to say it can't go to 500 billion, it's like, of course it can. It's at 3.5. I can rank it up, and maybe the amount of things that you must import go to 2.5, and we can't import tax oil or can't do whatever. Europe does that. It's why their prices are at like €9 per gallon, €3 per liter or
right,
something. Like it's like
right.
to say that it's impossible for us to tax it. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, so I'm not saying impossible, but my problem with the 500 billion or 600 billion number is all the things that I've been talking about on the show for, I don't know, months and months and months now with regard to tariffs, with regard to international trade, and with regard to the complexity of those markets, because you can't have your cake and eat it too. So
Mhm.
you can't say, I'm going to use these tariffs to pull manufacturing back to the United States, and then I'm still going to make money on the imported products that I just started making in the United States because the products aren't going to be coming into the United States from foreign countries and getting tariffed anymore. They're going to be made in the United States.
Which goes to the issue of you couldn't do it efficiently without breaking things.
Yeah,
Right? Correct. But if you say, screw it, I want to get $500 billion of taxes, and I'm going to break some industries, and then we'll fix, the thing of like Elon says, you cut so deep that you have to replace
right,
things,
right,
right? And people think, oh, look, you had to replace things, you had to go back. It's like, yes, because I'm using this chainsaw. They say, oh, you're using the chainsaw. Yes, because we have 15 months to get this all in, right? Before the midterm elections,
right, right,
right?
right.
So I'm going at speed, just like Facebook, Zuckerberg saying, move fast and break things.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
They're moving fast, they're gonna break things, and they say, oh, look, you broke things, you broke things. Like, yeah. And we're gonna get to the 500 billion, and we'll reverse some stuff and we'll fix some things and then do whatever, right? With certain goals of the principles of we want to get a big number
Mhm.
and we want to target industries where you can move it back into the United States, right? So, and I think directionally, I'm taking them at their word that they're going to try and do these kind of things,
Yeah,
right? And also that they're going to close the $60 billion Ireland tax haven loophole thing, and they're going to shut down this other Liberia thing, and say, oh yeah, you can toss this stuff out and people can pay more. It's like people can, consumers can pay, 5, 10% more because they, slapped on, other taxes all over the place. California has more taxes on oil. I'm paying,
yes,
$5 per gallon versus the rest of the country at $3 per gallon,
right.
right? So to say, well, you can't do that, no, they just did, and I'm still paying it.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's like, so
So in my small, and I will tell you, I think I know a lot about tariffs, but I don't know a lot about automotive manufacturing. Okay, so
yeah,
I, you know, here's, what do I know and what do I not know? So in automotive manufacturing, though, and asking Grok a few questions, it sounds like the biggest three things that are made, the parts that are made, either overseas or in Mexico or in Canada, would be drivetrains and wiring harnesses. Those would be the most expensive pieces that are made in these other places. I don't know about frames and things like that. Tires, I think tires, a lot of them are made offshore. Although I think we have a fairly large, I think we still have fairly large manufacturing of tires on.
There's a lot of big U.S. companies, whether they make them here or elsewhere, I can't be sure about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, but bringing on the going back to manufacturing drivetrains in the United States again, if they're now being made in Italy, South Korea, Japan, etc., that would not be something you do overnight.
Hmm. Right.
That's a fairly major decision to start making ICE motors again in the United States when you're supposed to be in the transition to to electric.
Hmm.
So that seems to me to be a more difficult part to do. Also, that the tranny, of course, goes with that motor. So would you anticipate a lot of motors and transmissions being built in the United States again?
I think that there are some that are built in the United States, and that, those factories that aren't at full capacity could be moved up to full capacity, and that because those are older equipment and things, it's just like, you know, you could, there's nothing in there like a gigapress or something that's so hard to move, right?
Mm.
Where they couldn't say, okay, here's that equipment. We're sticking it on trains, we're sticking it on big trucks, and we're taking that Mexican factory that's right on the border, and I can move it to the other side of the border into Texas,
Mhm.
right? That could be done if you had the motivation to do it,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then if it's not though, then
Mhm.
it will be a situation where potentially Japan, South Korea could subsidize the manufacturers of these motors and trannies in country, and they would end up paying the 25%. Uh, we would get that tax money.
Right, right, right. It depends about all the details about how it's applied, what the rules are, and they could say, I can't do this full move, but I can do this partial move, or I can start take some parts, and then negotiate something about how it all works. So there's a bunch of details about how much you could increase your U.S. built content for things that are difficult, like what's the even move, what's not, and it goes part by part among all these thousands of parts in order to figure out how to increase your content.
Okay, so switching to Tesla, I think we talked about this a little bit the other day, but we've got Troy Tesla is now in at 355,000, meaning that he and AJ are only 2,000 apart because AJ is at 357. We've
Hmm.
got the compiled number 377. We have got the street still at 407. I think maybe it'll come down tomorrow. I don't think anybody will paying any attention to that because it's going to be wacko. So I think the investors will be looking either at the compiled number or AJ and
Or just like, yeah.
yeah. So and then most of the retail investors and maybe some of the street investors have no longer care.
Hmm.
They've moved past it.
Hmm.
So how do you see the number? I don't think you've done your own analysis, but based on what you're seeing, how do you see it playing out on Wednesday on Tesla specifically? Let's pretend like there's no other market action on Wednesday, which of course that's
Yeah.
also the day of the tariffs. But
Yeah.
let's pretend like there wasn't any other action. What do you think happens with the stock price on Tuesday based on various levels that it might come in?
So you would think that plus or minus 10, 15,000 around the 350 to 360 number would be a nothing burger. That would be the going sideways kind of thing. So everything else is happening that day, but that particular data point should be a neutral thing. Um, if the price action where things went down and people are nervous, if that's related to this number, but I think to your point, you know, if you're freaked out about the number, you'd be this entire freak out over the month, over the 3 months. would
Right.
have been leading up to this point of like, hey, we're freaked out about the number, right?
Right.
Um, so, and the reason that anyone who's any kind of Tesla analyst at all would know, okay, hey, we've had the transition, and then we can see month to month
Right.
that
Right.
it was, the 4 week gap where there was no cars
Right.
on the Model Y, and then Model 3 is everything come back great in March. Whether it's come like really great or like partially great, it's basically on track to being all normal
Mhm.
again, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's evidence that's showing that we're going to be at the plus 15 to plus 20% on production going forward. But is that plus 20% just a capability that eases off if there's less pre-orders and other stuff going on in the thing? So um, it should not be the difference maker for the stock. And they already, I already lost plenty off of that. So that goes to my previous point, what I made for a month or so, that we're at this maximum negativity thing. And then it's far more likely you get some positive surprises going forward. Like so after you have, okay, we got 350, 360 number, and we have whatever we have for energy, and then you'll get the your April 20th saying, oh, here are the financials based upon that. Anyone who can run a financial spreadsheet should know, okay, this is a rough the EPS again, plus or minus a little bit, right? But the big story is, does um, do we have the robotaxis in June? Do we have the new car? So
Right.
that's all what Q2 is about. And also the confidence, like Elon just went to Wisconsin, repeated, we're going to get robotaxi in June,
Right.
right? So if robotaxi comes in June in Austin and we have new car, that is something which the is not priced into the stock,
Mhm.
right? Maybe was priced in before when we were up at 48. It's definitely not priced in there now, right? So, and when I look at the prediction markets and betting sites, they're pretty much down at about like 30% that there will be even one robotaxi paid ride by Tesla by the end of the year. Not in June,
Year.
not in June, yeah, not in June, not in July, August, by the end of this year. And then it's not even that great for like the end of next year, right? So
So we should be placing bets.
yeah, you can place bets. Yeah,
I
yeah,
should I should be placing my bet. I can make money on that one.
right. You can make money. Yeah, 𝐂𝐲, Polymarket may have some bets related to that around Robotaxi. Yeah,
Interesting. Wow. Not by the end of the year. I
right.
would be so shocked, especially because they keep reconfirming. It's
Right,
like,
right. The thing is, it goes to that thing of like before the election,
yeah,
Trump versus Harris, something like that, right? You know, the if one thing happens, the world like this, if the other thing happens, the world like that, it's a pretty big gap.
yeah.
And they're saying it's all jump ball, it's this 50-50 coin flip thing. And then, one side believes it, another side doesn't. And then you go pass through the event and things happen, right? Here, again, it's like whenever I talk to, all the casual people, oh yeah, Elon said stuff about robotaxi before, I don't believe it, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, they'll say, hey, I don't believe the new car or whatever. It's like there's they completely do not believe in that scenario and they don't price it in and do whatever. So, and then so it does happen, then it's this shock where it probably also was like before, like 2018, Model 3 getting up to volume. Hey, we're going to get to 500,000
Yeah.
units
Yeah.
and keep saying it over and over again. And the people don't believe it. And then it starts happening. And then the stock makes a big vertical
Yeah.
move because it
Yeah.
happens. It impacts revenue, impacts earnings. It's transformational that way. And because these things are so huge. It's like if I didn't believe that the next Star Wars movie is going to come out,
Yeah.
it's not going to make it $1 billion like that. Then that impacts Disney somewhat. It's a bit of a move, right? But here it's like it happens or it doesn't happen. It's like Amazon AWS.
Yeah.
I don't Amazon Web Services. I'm thinking e-commerce. I don't believe the same thing that happened, and it starts happening, and then quarter by quarter, it's like, wow, it's still happening. It's still
Yeah.
happening. Or Nvidia more recently,
Yeah.
where they get the AI chip, that thing happens, and their earnings go up 10 times.
Yeah, and in this particular case, as I pointed out the other day, and I really haven't seen anybody else talking about this, I don't know why. So it's one thing to have the Tesla website say it's, confirmed it's going to be in June. Elon saying it now twice that it's going to be in June, just last night being the second time. And then having them say that the DOT is going to be a host of the event.
Right.
So therefore, the event date must already be known or kind of known. The DOT is going to be a host, and that means there's no way in the world that DOT hasn't seen data or maybe even ridden substantially in a vehicle that was able to accomplish the task before they would host it. I mean, it's one thing to say it's okay, you can drive on our streets, and by the way, City of Austin also is hosting. So you have the City of Austin that says, yes, it's okay for you to drive on our streets. That's one thing. DOT, oh, it's okay to drive on our streets. That's one thing. But then both of them are saying, no, we're going to host the event.
Right.
You got to have a high degree of confidence.
Yeah.
So to me, the vehicle is ready to go now.
Right.
That's what I feel. I feel like it's already done.
Right. Right. And you see it like every day in Fremont. For people who don't know, Fremont's one of the main factories.
Right.
And the cars are calibrating as they're being built, as they go through the factory. When they come out of the factory, they're able to drive right away, which is a huge deal. Before you had to like drive for hours before you could calibrate your vehicle and ready to do FSD. They calibrate out of the factory, and then they drive themselves through the traffic of like a mile and a half to the loading docks and park themselves with no driver. And yes, it's a private road, not totally public, but there's stop signs, there's forklifts moving around, there's workers moving around, and there's video of this happening all the time. 1,000, 2,000 cars every day, night and day, rain, whatever. It's happening all the time, right? So you're getting, 100,000 miles a month from, these drives. And then you also have the summon, smart summon, where you say, hey, I have FSD. I'm going to punch the app. I'm going to call my car over to me. And it's going to come from within visual eyesight, 85 meters, up to 85 meters away, come to me. Or I can say, I'm getting off here in front of the movie theater. Go park yourself, go park over there, right? And it'll go do that, right? So to say that, I don't believe Elon, it's like, are you looking at these cars doing these things? It's like it's happening. When he said that 4 years ago, it wasn't happening, but now it's happening, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Of course, we still don't know anything about Model Q. They're managing to keep that completely under wraps. We did see a Model 3 today being driven around that had some unusual cameras attached to the car, not built into the car, but attached to the car in some odd places, which could have been testing for the Model Q, I suppose. That's like the only, I mean, we got nothing. They're being Apple-esque,
it's March 31st.
Apple so everything like so close to their.
It's March 31st as we record this. So they could do some stuff where they could start sticking crap on cars tomorrow or basically the time date, because April 1st, and totally mess people up. It's like, oh, look, this is the car, whatever they're driving around. And it's like end of the day, April Fools, we pretended to make a car and you guys are freaking out. Haha.
They could have a lot of fun with that tomorrow. You're right. You've given them a good idea. I wonder if they have time to still do it. Okay. All right. We saw from Adcock today from Figure. They put up a new video of their Figure. Well, it's not called the Figure
Helix robot.
Helix? Is that what it's called? The Helix?
Helix platform. I don't know. But Figure One.
Right. So they were showing their bots in the actual factory setting. This is what I've been calling on Elon to do. We're hoping that that'll happen someday. But I was a little bit disappointed in that it was just still doing pick and pack.
Pick and place, yeah.
Pick and place, rather, pick and place. And what I've been hoping for is that when Elon does it, that we'll see welding, we'll see bolting something, using tools, we'll see interaction with humans, we'll see, all kinds of things that would indicate more of a flexibility, more of a capability. But what did you think about what you saw today?
Yeah, so the video looked very similar to a video they released a few weeks ago, which we reviewed in one of our human robot videos. It was basically that there's this rack behind it, like a clothes rack, which they lift off apart, and then they put it onto a set of prepositioned um, holding pegs for these parts. So they load it up, and okay, 10 different parts are now placed upon this pegboard, and then this car-sized car-sized dashboard of a pegboard. Um, and the pegs are like, like an inch thick or something like that, so they're really big and heavy. And then the thing, the glass closes, the plastic closes, and then the thing rotates over, and then regular car uh, one-arm robot things that we've seen for decades then go and pick the parts and then actually do the welding and applying into the vehicle.
Right.
So it's an actual part of the assembly line, but I guess it could be that normally a human would be doing that process where like it has the rack of parts, and then a human does the pick and place thing onto the pegboard to load up the machine. It's like I'm loading it up. It's like I'm taking paper that I'm going to put into a Xerox machine, a copy machine, and then I'm, load the paper in and I shove it into the bin, and then it, does the printing. Right.
Right.
So, except here it's metal parts and that kind of thing. So I'm loading it up for this process. So yeah, it's a valid step. If they had to adjust the line to do it for the machine, it would seem to be pretty underwhelming. But if I presume that it's a valid part of it, just like if I had a robot that could take a pack of paper, rip it open,
Right.
stick 500 pages into the tray, and then shove that into the thing, and then I'm printing copy. Right? Okay, you did it.
Yeah.
That was something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just again, it just didn't seem to me to be moving the project forward. I mean, we saw robots a year ago that were making coffee and coffee makers, and I would actually be more impressed, I think, if I saw it opening up a ream of paper and taking
Yeah.
the paper, and then I don't know, I used to work in a print shop, and so you take that ream and you crack it,
Yeah.
so that you make sure that it's all, it's feathered out. So if the robot can crack it, then put it in the thing, and then maybe it misses a little bit and gets it slightly off center and has to correct it, and then you
Yeah.
know I mean, just, I might be more impressed with something that has a little more nuance to it.
Oh, manipulation to it. Yeah. If you had the copy paper equivalent of like unjamming the machine.
Yes.
If
Yes.
I had to like pull it out
Yes.
and
Yeah,
then
that would really be.
like pop this thing open,
Yeah.
and then remove this whatever circular roller,
Right.
and then take out the
Right.
jam paper and then put it all back. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be more impressive. For more impressive examples, there are the Sanctuary AI,
Right.
Canadian company. Um, they had far more work on really sensitive fingers, and they've had examples where you would take a plastic bag, right, a little Ziploc bag,
Yeah.
be able to put something into it, put the Ziploc thing together, and then do stuff. But that probably was a remote teleoperated
Mm.
thing, where it's like it shows that the hands can do it, doesn't show the brain behind doing it, right? So there've been far more impressive examples of that. But then the question is, what on the actual assembly line, to your point, actual equipment, actual doing stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, I clearly know that there are workers on the line doing that. So
Yeah.
it's like, what are the main jobs that you're really doing that can really move the needle? And not knowing enough about the car manufacturing process,
Yeah.
we don't know. Although we know that Tesla has, for many cases, removed the paint shop, which was a half.
Mhm.
But then they just did that by getting it so we don't paint the car, Cybertruck with metal, or we have Robotaxi upcoming where the color is mixed into the plastic and you're just molding it in. So just by the best part is no part, you can
Right.
totally eliminate it by having no automation. So that goes to Elon's statement of like automate only the last step,
Right.
right? After making everything else more efficient.
But like for instance, we just found out, if we didn't already think it or know it, that the Cybertruck, some of the outside panels, the trim panels, are glued onto the vehicle.
Mhm.
So to me, it would be more sophisticated, more nuanced, more clever to see the robot apply the glue,
Yeah.
then apply the part to the vehicle,
Yeah.
and make sure that it's firmly, put down. And then if there's any, parts that it has to make sure, pushing along something that has a feedback loop, and you need to make sure it's right. And, it's more than just picking something up and putting it into a spot where it belongs.
So the big way that we could know for sure without, you know, us common people being in on the magic tricks about what's going on
Right,
inside the factory
right.
is um, there's CareSoft. So there, everyone in the test community knows about Sandy Monroe Associates, where they do the tear down of cars and they do the stuff. CareSoft is, I think, a bigger version of Sandy's company. So I think they're a $3 billion company. They spent 200,000 hours analyzing the unbox process. So which meant they probably had like 100 guys working a year to do that. They made a digital twin of the entire factory. So if people don't know digital twin, it's like you have 3D model rendering of everything going on in a process. So you have 3D digital twin of a car, 5,000 parts, and do everything within the car. And they did it for the entire factory. Thus, they had 2,000, 100,000 hours of all this data gathering and analysis in order to say, yes, you will save 30% by going unboxed and all these other efficiencies. Why did they do that? Why did they spend $50 million, say, to get this analysis in such detail? So they can turn around to the Chinese and South Korean car makers and say, here, 100 million, $200 million, pay us. We will tell you how to copy Tesla
Right.
in this plan that they're doing for the last few years, because they are all trying um, to replicate that. But that means Caresoft has digital twins of the regular Tesla factory, and they have digital twin of the uh, unboxed process Tesla factory,
Mhm.
and they can say, if I shove in a Tesla bot in here doing this stuff for this human, and I adjust the parameters on it, they can say, I could see them getting 1% by replacing these 100 jobs.
Yeah.
Because they know exactly what
Yeah.
all 5,000 people are
Right.
doing on a shift.
Right. Right. Right.
So if they had some like a non-disclosure thing and then go to Caresoft and say, here's what we've done on these 500 locations
Mhm.
where we're doing all these Tesla bots and stuff like that, then they can say, you will get your 2% performance thing. You'll go from 35 seconds to 33 seconds per car out of Shanghai, right? And thus you'll have the performance uplift and you can have these other efficiencies exactly known to detail, right? And it wouldn't take that long to get that information, right? So that kind of third party thing, and we know Carousel had that data, right? And they would love to do it to know for them to have the inside track
Mhm.
on what the Tesla bot future of the factory is going to be, right? They would totally be on board with that thing. I don't think they'd even charge Tesla to do it. And
Right.
then you'd have this like third party thing of scientifically analyzed, simulated model thing of what Tesla's doing and what the impact is of the bots. That would be a far more um, informative thing for the investors to know. And it wouldn't give out secret sauce information to the Chinese and the other makers because Tesla will have told them, you cannot give this information out. We're letting you know, but it's an NDA. But Carousel will still get more business because they can still write some whatever generalized report thing to say this is the path that's good. We can't give you certain secret sauce information, but we can tell you more about it. So it would be a win-win, and it would be uh, clear, unambiguous, no kind of guessing thing. It would be like scientifically valid.
Okay. Well, you've had a chance too to think long and hard about the protests about the impact of the protests. I have too. We've seen their big day, the 29th, come and go. The 30th was another pretty good day, I guess, in terms, but they, I guess, had some locations where they had 5 people, and they had some locations where they had 500 people. I referred to it last night in my program as a bust,
Hmm.
because I felt like they got a few headlines out of it. But overall, I didn't think they had really the kind of numbers that they would have needed across the country, across the globe, to really, really get the headlines that they were hoping for, and that I wasn't sure that they were changing any minds. Also, this morning we were reading that they've now proven that a lot of these people were paid, and that maybe a lot more of them that weren't paid are just regular old Democratic operatives, that are just part of the regular Democratic Party that go out to every event that people have. This is based on interviews, but also based on stuff they found on the website of the organizers.
Hmm.
So that's not good. I mean, I don't think that makes them look good. It makes them look
Right.
cheap. So what are your takeaways? Do you think they get a what's your grade on their effort, and what do you think the impact is on Tesla?
I think it's a D and it's heading to an F, that they're going to fail. That the the fact that they will be arrested, that FBI and other, they say it's domestic terrorism. So um, I think the now whatever YouTubers who do Tesla YouTube have shown that a lot of these guys have been found and arrested. They got the names, got the people, and unlike certain other protests a few years ago where there was a revolving door where people could make the protests, set
Yeah,
fires, do whatever, and get released right away, they will not be released right away.
right.
So that means your group that's actually doing the more egregious, violent things are being put in jail and then will be processed and punished.
Mhm.
So then, if you were to want to maintain that level of actual violent activity, then it would mean you have to get new people
Mhm.
because the ones you had activated before or had motivated before are now arrested
Right.
and gone, right? So then there'd be a limited supply, dwindling supply of those people. And then if they're paying people to do this, then there's again actual action from a government that wants to stop it, at least in the United States,
Right.
maybe not in Canada,
Right.
that would want to um, pursue who's funding it. So they're going to trace down
Mhm.
the NGOs, if it's George Soros or whatever, right? So I think that this is something that is getting attention to stop actual criminal activity.
And so, what do you think the impact is on Tesla's business?
I think it's decreasing. That it will one there's shown that more conservatives and Republicans are buying Teslas. So in terms of the net impact, I think it's already a positive thing. Like there was some decrease, but now there's an increase in activity. So it's I think it's a ready boomerang to boomerang more.
Yeah, unless Elon gives us an update at the uh, conference call, on the 20th or whatever date they're going to have it, unless he gives us some kind of an update as to how sales are 2/3 of the way through April, the numbers that we're going to get on Wednesday are not going to really tell us if there was much of an impact, because every Model Y that's being sold right now is easy. It's an easy sale right now. They only have so many. They're
Right.
just coming off the line, and it's coming. It's not producing very many of them. So it won't be. Maybe it won't even be April. It may have to be May or June before we really feel whether these protests worked to against or for the folks that did the protest.
I don't think you can even tease that out many months down the road
Yeah.
because if there was a 5% drop, how do you
How do you
discern
know
that
what to?
from production? You wouldn't know. I don't see how you can know even months or years from now. It's like, it happened and you know,
I guess one of the things that they could do, I suppose they could, again, this would be something that Tesla could do, if they chose to, which was they could talk about the activity in the showrooms during the protest. Was it, dramatically higher? Was it the same? Because there's one thing is for people to leave their house and go down to the showroom because they hear about the protests. But some of these are on fairly busy streets, even in retail neighborhoods. And so some of them, they could have had walk-in traffic, people that were just, wow, what's going on here? It's almost like having balloons and stuff that are, attracting people to a dealership. Here we got all these people out with signs,
Mhm.
potentially creating in-store traffic.
I think it would have to be at a sustained, super violent level in order for it to be like it's clear that this is stopping stuff. Where they actually burn a lot of dealerships to the ground, actually stop sales in an entire country. Otherwise, it's you you can't really tell that much, from that. Or if you actually had um, lasting 20% down, okay, we go to 1.8 million cars made last year, and some would go to 1.6. Then you can say, okay, it lasted a full year. There was not even flat growth, negative. And there was all this constant activity
Right.
around it. Then you can clearly say, okay, that was big enough. That was a clearly successful protest. It's like the Budweiser protest.
Yes.
25% drop.
Right.
Huge drops, no purchases,
and it stayed. Yeah.
and it stayed, right? Then you can say, okay, that was an effective thing. If it goes and comes and goes in 3, 4 months, it's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, Brian, anything else on your mind today?
Basically, this is, the judgment week in terms of like a lot of stuff gets known this week in terms of like, the Wednesday deliveries, how much was on the mega pack sales, and then whatever happens with tariffs. So it's an important week that may end up being nothing but it could be things go up quickly, then go down, go sideways. Again, it's like you don't know, but it is something that is likely to be decisive in some way. And then this particular quarter coming up, once we go tomorrow, April 1, Q2, is one where, do we have normal sales again? Do we have increased sales? Do we have the new car? And then do we have Robotaxis in June? Which is, again, it's like people are watching 2 movies of reality, and then only one movie will really be playing
Right.
after Q2. It's like, the thing is gonna, the Robotaxi is gonna be there, the new car is gonna be there, and we're gonna find out. It's pretty definitive week, and then pretty definitive quarter.
Very
It's gonna be
definitive quarter, yes.
Yeah.
I thought that the fourth quarter was going to be definitive too, because I thought we'd be seeing the reveal on Optimus, but now I'm feeling like that's a 2026 at this point. So but that's okay. I'm young.
Yeah.
Well, not that young, but anyway, it'll come when it comes. All right, Brian, thanks as always for jumping on. I appreciate you coming on Monday night because
Mhm.
I had a little situation with my internet today.
Mm.
I told Larry that I had a problem with my internet being down for a couple of hours. He said, "What's wrong with you, son? What's wrong with
Yeah.
you, young man?" He calls me.
Yeah.
How come you don't have Starlink? And I'm like, yeah, what? Okay, yeah. Anyway, so
Okay.
again, but thanks for jumping on, and to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.